Hi, my name is Jayoza. I teach, mentor, and coach people on public speaking so that they can get winning high stakes speeches, whether it's one on one in a job interview, or at a business meeting in front of a small group, or at a conference in front of a large audience. Today, I want to talk about the job interview process, and specifically that there are two zones that you typically fall into. One of them is good and one of them is bad. And they are the candidate zone and the employee zone. Okay, before I go into that, let me kind of explain this a little bit more before I get into the two zones there. So let's take Google for example. My dad, who has never applied to Google, as far as Google is concerned, he's a non-entity. He's in the non-entity zone. Google doesn't know him. Will never know him because he's never going to apply to Google. You know, he's an accountant, and I don't think at his age now he's looking to join Google. So he's in a non-entity zone. But there are many people that are in a non-entity zone when it comes to employment is concerned. Okay, I applied to Google several times, and at this point I don't know whether they still have my resume active or not. Probably not, but at one time they did. So I was in the resume zone, and resume zone is there. I'm never hearing from them. I never heard from them. But it doesn't cost me anything. I'm not investing any time, effort, energy, or anything like that. So there's a resume zone that a lot of people get into when they send their resumes out to different companies. Now again, I don't want to get too granular here. There's weak resume and strong resume. Okay? But right now let's just put it into the resume zone. At some point, you will get out of the resume zone and there is an interest. You get into the candidate zone. This is the zone where you are now investing time, effort, and even money. Okay? So you don't want to remain in this zone for too long because you want to move into the employee zone, or you want to move into the strong resume zone. Since they have expressed interest, now you have contact. And if it's not going to work out, then you want to withdraw your candidacy and get into the strong resume zone. All right. The thing about the candidate zone is you want to know whether you are likely to move into the employee zone. Now, there are two things here. One that's two reasons that's preventing you from getting into the employee zone are internal and external. Internal are things that they're not sold on you, based on your background, experience, whatever, education, skills, whatever. Okay, you need to get this off the table quickly. So let's say they were looking for some skill, and they're saying, well, this skill is something we're not seeing. The question you have to ask is, how important is the skill? And you got to really be granular here. If you have to, I like to use the 60-30-10 principle, identify the skills in that order. 60% is this, 30% is this, 10% is this, and after that it doesn't really matter. Those are the top three skills in that weighted order. So that way you know how close are you. And if it looks like they picked something that you just do not have, you got to withdraw. Cannot stay in that zone. That zone is costing you money, time, and energy. You don't want to stay. Get into the strong resume zone and just say, I'm going to withdraw mine. Perhaps another position that comes up may be more suitable, and stay in touch. So you're out of the candidate zone. A lot of people don't do it, and then they really, really have a bad experience. Now, what about external? So let's say internal, there are no reasons, but they're not putting you in the employee zone. Why? Why is that happening? You need to know. One reason could be they have a process that's kind of convoluted. You don't want to be part of a convoluted process. Again, you got to withdraw from the candidate zone. The second reason could be there are too many candidates. They have to still interview 3, 4, 5 candidates. Again, that's not your problem. That's outside your control. You need to get out of the candidate zone again, because when there are 3, 4 candidates they're looking at, means you haven't made an impression. The process didn't stop at you. So there's something not right here, and you got to withdraw. Because why do you want to go through this nonsense process if they couldn't find anything that they had concerns about your background? They have to move you to the employee zone. So the question then is, what is the employee zone? You're not an employee, but you want to get into that zone because you're putting that foot in that employee zone. The employees, you know you're an employee zone when the conversation is focusing on the job, more on the job or the project or the challenges, and they're seeing you as the person who actually is, who can do that work, who fits into that. And they may want to talk to you more, have a conversation. At that point, you're in employee zone when you're having the conversation that you like. In the candidate zone, you're often having the conversations that you don't like because you're not getting any kind of certainty where you really are. You're still in the candidate zone, but you may get, moved to the resume zone, or you could get moved to the employee zone. It all depends on the conversation you're having. If you're having a good conversation, the kind of conversation that makes you feel like, hey, I'm being treated like an employee at this point, then you are going to get the job offer. But if you're still, there are things like, well, we like you a lot, but there are still a couple of more candidates we have to look at. Don't fall for that. You're still in the candidate zone, and you got to get out of it. You cannot be in a candidate zone for too long. That's in tennis called no man's land, and you don't want to be there for too long. You either run towards it, pass by it quickly, or you run backwards, go to the baseline. But you can't get stuck in the no man's land, and that's what the candidate zone is. You got to get out of it quickly. So you might be wondering, like, wait a second, this is a different way of looking at a job. Perhaps it's not that different, but a lot of people don't look at it that way. One of the things I tell my clients is that when you're looking for a job, it's not really the job. Think of a job essentially as a negotiation exercise. You're negotiating from the first point of contact till you actually sign the contract or the job offer. That's what it is. It's nothing but a negotiation. And a lot of people do not view looking at a job as a negotiation. Like in all negotiation, it's not always going to work out, but you got to be the smart person and know when it's likely to work out and when it's not likely to work out. If it looks like you're being in the candidate zone for too long, then it's not likely to work out. I've seen too many cases where people were stuck in the candidate zone and they never could get out of it. And that's how I want you to look at when you're looking for a job. Candidate zone is good when you get in from a resume zone, but you cannot stay in there for too long. It's not going to help you. Get out of it quickly and become a strong resume again, or get into that employee zone. And that's where you want to be. That's where good things start happening. Think about this and let me know what you think. And thank you for watching, and good luck with your job prospecting.